This time. We're up.
Oh, okay. All right. We don't know what just happened, but we're back. Let's see. Where were we? Back on
I'll give
Ichthyostega.
people a second to find us. Literally have no idea. Okay.
So still wait a few seconds.
Yeah, hmm. Let me refresh this. Hold on. Give it a second longer. I really have no idea what caused this. It did it like 4 times in a row. Okay. This is weird. Give us just a few minutes. We're not sure what caused this. It's back up. Hold on. We're just making sure we don't lose this again. Or hoping we don't lose it. Close. And over here. Okay. Hold on, let me pull the article back. Okay.
Alrighty, we're back. Let's dive right back into the late Devonian period. So, by comparing their data to 5 living animals salamander, crocodile, platypus, seal, and otter, the scientists found that the shoulder and hip joints in Ichthyostega were unusually restricted in their motions. This makes sense considering how early it is in the evolution of terrestrial mobility, or the ability to somewhat stand, walk, or at least slightly maneuver on land. Um, when it comes to also Ichthyostega, many tend to, or at least those that are somewhat familiar with this um, later version of a lobe-finned fish, as like an enormous animal. And the truth is, it wasn't much more than maybe 5 feet or a little over 1.5 meters. So it was large for its type of animal for the time, but small in comparison to a lot of later, let's say, amphibians. So let's see. Meaning the animal could not have used a conventional walking step. In particular, the study uncovered that the limbs in Ichthyostega were incapable of rotating along their long axis, a limb motion critical to locomotion in living land animals. So that is interesting, considering there are also many things that make Ichthyostega out to have the ability to somewhat, especially for an amphibian, to efficiently walk on land, and it couldn't. So let's take a deeper dive. Study co author Professor John R. Hutchinson from the Royal Veterinary College said, remarkably, earlier fishes called tetrapodomorphs had the ability to rotate their fins, so it seems that just as vertebrates were experimenting with terrestrial movement, the limbs became confined to mainly back and forth and up and down motions. Yeah, it is quite interesting. I mean, it is showing that. I like how it mentions, or the professors use the term experimented, or you have it where different species in their evolution are. It's almost like their bodies are trying to figure out what works best for more mobility on land. So let's see, or at least what's the most efficient. It wasn't until tetrapods became more competent on land that they recovered the ability to rotate their limbs around their long axis. According to the study, a limited capacity to rotate the limbs implies that some of the earliest land animals could not walk well on all four legs. Um, I guess it's referring to the efficient mobility that you see in different animals later on, and especially animals today. But I'd say for at least over 315 million years, you've had quite efficient mobility on land. Now, and I'm referring to like the late Carboniferous period. You could say that the efficient mobility, especially of the earliest reptiles, was quite rare, but it already was occurring. So the ability to also run. Now, bipedally, though, which is, well, becomes a bit more common much later. I do wonder when that first evolved. So, let's see. According to the study, a limited capacity to rotate the limbs implies that some of the earliest land animals could not walk well on all fours. In particular, manipulation of the 3D model demonstrates that land locomotion in ichthyostega like animals would probably have involved synchronized motions of the front legs, with the hind legs barely being able to reach the ground and probably playing a more minor supportive role along with the tail. That is interesting, considering there are other things that make it out where Ichthyostega's hind legs are quite useful when it comes to mobility. And apparently, even back when this was written, or when the study was done, they were or they were not useful. So it's quite interesting. It's one of those animals that kind of would have dragged itself on land. These early tetrapods probably moved in a similar way to a mud skipper to living mud skipper fishes, in which the front fins slash legs are used like crutches to haul the body up and forward. Yeah, I gotta say it's definitely not the best way to get around on land, but for their early evolution, it's pretty good. As early tetrapods were still mostly aquatic, this type of movement may have helped to stabilize the body during their first tentative forays onto land. It is interesting that the mud skipper fish almost has like a delayed mobility evolution of, I guess by this instance, over 360 million years. Yet it's still quite successful. Let's see. The next step for the scientists is to combine their models of limb motion with similar models of the rest of the skeleton as well as muscles to make much more sophisticated biomechanical analyses of just how these animals did or did not move and how well they were able to do it. So, is there anything else? No, that's it. Oh, that's quite something. I mean, especially for back then when it came to Ichthyostega. Well, let's head over to the next or the first video. Oh no, what's happening here? Maybe somewhere in India or maybe Myanmar, Bangladesh. He immediately got,
He just stopped the truck.
except that was extremely quick. Well, I mean, the truck
Look at the
stopped.
ground.
Yeah, seems to have been making a mess. This is completely okay, and they have to let the elephant grab whatever it wanted from the truck by like these laws, especially over in India.
So basically, he has a food conveyor belt.
Yep, it's literally a bull elephant just waiting for other trucks to pass.
Oh my god! And they were trying to get around him, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it can be must be quite annoying
And
having
now
a.
he's just eating in the middle of the street.
I mean, it's fun for everybody else, but yeah, having a 6-ton animal come over and steal all the food. Well, a little bit, but still a mass loss. I'm not
Well,
sure though.
especially
It's
how many of them are doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we don't know. You could have whole herds come over and try to take, whatever he has. I don't know if that was some sort of straw or tinder. Well, obviously some form of tinder. Heading to the next article from NPR.org. High up in the mountains, goats and sheep faced off over salt. Guess who won? Oh, okay. So we're dealing with mountain goats, and I'm guessing bighorn sheep. Where is this occurring? Here is a female mountain goat in an alpine meadow in Montana's Glacier National Park. So it's over in northwestern Montana in the Middle Rockies. Goats ram, sheep scram. That's pretty much the four-word summation of a new study looking at what happens when goats and sheep compete for salt licks, naturally occurring deposits of salt above the tree line in Montana. Yeah, I've always wondered about this, like how often also do mountain goats and bighorn sheep in different parts of the Rocky Mountains, possibly certain other regions, uh, probably mostly within the Rockies, how often do they compete for salt? Maybe even vegetation. But you tend to see when it comes to vegetation, spots, bighorn sheep and mountain goats tend to stick to separate areas. Since this blog is called Goats and Soda, we wanted to know more, so we interviewed study co author Joel Berger, professor at Colorado State University and a senior scientist for the Wildlife Conservation Society. And if you're curious how we came up with this blog name, here's the story of if you're not inclined to click on embedded links here's a synopsis. Goats are an integral part of life around the world, and especially in the lower resource countries we cover.
Synopsis.
Synopsis. Oh, where having even a few goats can provide food for a family, either from milk or meat. Plus, like journalists, goats are very curious animals. um I don't understand the soda part. All I could think of was, like soda lakes where you see, like in different parts of South America and Africa, flamingos fly to feed on like different microscopic shrimp. You can even have it where spotted hyenas or jackals might prey on them in certain areas, but that would never have hit me. This interview has been edited for length and clarity. Okay, so um, Forrest Hayes, a PhD student of mine and co author of the study, and I were in Montana looking for grizzly bears through spotting scopes, and we kept seeing goats and then sheep. Why are they above the tree line in areas where there's just no food? This was in May 2019. The remnant of winter snow is just melting out. It's too high for any plant growth yet because temperatures are still pretty frigid. So we kept noticing goats and sheep in different places, but every once in a while they were coming together at the same few spots, which were very patchily distributed mineral licks. And they were after the salt in those mineral licks, which, as you note, would have previously been covered by glacial ice that's now melting. There's very little, there's like a sliver of a glacier over in Glacier National Park. I mean, supposedly there was more of it like back in the early 1900s, but it's pretty much almost gone. I think there's also slivers of a couple of glaciers in Colorado and maybe one in Utah. It's very small. But let's see. I don't believe Idaho has any, but Washington State has certain smaller glaciers. Let's see. Not sure about Oregon. It's possible. Let's see. It's salt. Darned, that's a really good question. Oh wait, huh? Let's see what. Oh, how did they know they'd find salt above tree line where they typically don't hang out? Darn, that's a really good question. I don't know that anybody has looked at how these hoofed animals or mammals know how to detect salt. I know in desert systems like the Gobi Desert, they can smell rainfall and know how to navigate and go to the rain. Yeah, what does it have to do with salt? Okay. You observed some interactions as the goats and sheep competed for the salt. Now, you could say, I mean, perspiration or sweat contains salt. So let's see. Over 106 interactions. The sheep won two. Everything else was goats, goats, goats. Wow. They just surrendered every single time when it came to interacting with mountain goats, which is interesting because bighorn sheep can become much larger than mountain goats. Um, hmm. I think mountain goats, though, might be a bit taller compared to the bighorns, so maybe their height might intimidate them a bit more. Bighorns also tend to congregate in much larger herds compared to mountain goats. No, it does depend on the mountain goat herd as well. Um, hmm. Maybe the mountain goats are simply more aggressive. This is a big question. If everything else is equal, I was expecting half of the interactions to be won by sheep and half by goats because they're similar in size. But you made an interesting point. You would have expected goats. It's armchair quarterbacking, but now, oh yeah, it makes sense. Goats don't have a lot of behavioral signaling. They kind of go into aggression pretty fast. Sheep have a lot of postures to communicate. So, what's a goat going to do? Lower its head and rush at you. So, it seems immediate with mountain goats. They just, the moment they start getting a bit rush at you. Yeah, charge. That's what he meant. Um, yeah, I think just bighorn sheep are a lot more docile, and mountain goats are much more just aggressive and offensive. They just refused to leave and took a couple of steps to the goats, and the goats wanted no part of it. Oh, oh, here's a picture. Here are three rams, and there's a mountain goat pushing them away. You
I
can,
don't understand how that could even happen.
and you can see that they're everybody is shedding, especially him. So a mountain goat moves towards three bighorn rams near a snow patch in Glacier National Park. This looks like this looks like summer. The goat eventually moved the rams out of the way.
Is it a little snowy for summer?
No, you can have it. We're in certain higher alpine regions of the Middle Rockies, even Southern Rockies. There can be preserved snow, and it stays there all year long. Let's see. Um, hmm. So we don't know because nobody's ever studied this before. That's a really good. Okay, might there be ramifications for goats that people raise? That's a really good question. There probably are ramifications for water holes in deserts in Asia or Africa, but we already know goats can be aggressive. Okay, what does this have to do? Mm, what is oil and gas? What on earth? Ah, okay. Well, that's interesting to see. So, Big Orange is pretty. I wonder what happened with those two incidents, though. Was that just a rare, bighorn that's just had enough of it, and or a large group in the mountain goat just stayed out of it, or maybe two mountain goats? We're not sure. And or was it a very young mountain goat? So that's my question. So let's head over to the next video, or some Friday questions that go with that. Oh, whoa! He made it over there without getting pushed.
Who, the baby?
Yeah, that's a bit shocking. Oh, there's 2. Oh, oh no.
They're
Oh,
swimming.
that must not be a very strong current. Wow, that's really impressive.
Well, the current seems to almost shut down closer to where the lions are.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they're standing there, they could be oh, look how it's not that deep though. Look at the mother. Hold on.
I mean, I
Look where the
forget.
mother's feet are.
Yeah,
It's not very deep.
they might be somewhat heavier than house cats, a decent sized house cat or slender one at this point. So, um, yeah, probably like maybe 20 pounds or so, and they still have. I mean,
Do you know what
they're
their
quite
average
strong at this
birth weight
point.
is?
What?
You know what their average birth weight is?
Oh, they're tiny, like, they don't have the ability to, walk at that point,
No,
or barely.
what their weight is
Are you
when they're
talking?
born.
No, not when it comes to lion cubs. Okay, for heading to the next, article from news.mongabay.com. Conservationists aim to save South America's super tiny wild cat, the guina. Yes, we must. Look at this guy. Let's
He
see.
looks like a stuffed animal.
Yeah, he does. So, for more than 200 million years, the ancient Valdivian temperate forest in southwestern Chile has been a refuge for plant and animal species found nowhere else on Earth. This global biodiversity hotspot is home to monkey puzzle trees, Araucaria araucana, the endangered chinchilla, Chinchilla lanigera, threatened southern poodoo. This is the tiny deer of the region. They barely reach more than 30 pounds or a little over 12 kilograms. The Pudu Buddha, the world's smallest deer, and two critically endangered species, the Juan Fernandez firecrown, a hummingbird, and the northern Darwin's frog. But that's not all. The Guinea, Lepardus guigna, the smallest cat in the Americas, also lives here. Among the dense understories of bamboo and ferns, hunting for prey, including rodents, marsupials, birds, and reptiles. Oh, yeah. There are actually certain species of bamboo that are native to South America. And I believe there are a couple of species that are native to the southern United States. So it's not just areas like China where pandas and panda bears and red pandas are feeding on them. Though I don't know who is for what animals are specifically feeding on these bamboo species. So let's see. Also called the codcode or Chilean cat, the diminutive guinea weighs in at only 2 to 7 pounds or a little over 2 kilograms, considerably smaller than domestic cats. It has a bushy tail, spotted brown fur, and prominent stripes on the cheeks of its small, round head. It is also one of the most threatened cats in South America, currently listed as vulnerable, whatever that means. Tends to be like right under least concern, which I don't really agree with the whole distribution or just the different categories when it comes to least concern or overabundant to, I guess, extinct or extinct in the wild.
Wasn't there one that
Maybe
said there
critically
was
endangered.
that it was overabundant or something and had 500 or something? Or was it
Yeah, that
5,000?
it might have been less than 500. That tends to happen with certain carnivore populations. No, not even carnivore populations, herbivore populations in different areas of the United States, like what we see with the moose population over in northern Nevada, and there's somewhere between 100 to 150 individuals, and they're already allowing hunting of a small population.
Can everyone put a 1 in the chat if they're not a bot?
Let's see. So the Guinea's habitat is a roughly 160,000 square kilometer, 62,000 square mile coastal strip in central and southern Chile, southwestern Argentina, and the large island of Chiloé off the coast of southern Chile. Okay, so we're over in some part of western South America. In northern and central Chile, the slightly larger and lighter subspecies, Algae tigrillo, inhabits Mediterranean climate type woodlands and forests. In their southern range, the darker and smaller subspecies, Algae guigna, inhabits the denser Valdivian temperate rainforest, the Patagonian forest in southern Chile, and the Andean Patagonian forest in southwestern Argentina. While the Guinea has the most restricted distribution among the America's feline species, the small cat is superbly adapted. They have been swimming across broad rivers and can quickly scale tall trees to hide from danger, says Chilean based Constanza Napolitano, a professor at the Department of Biological Sciences at the University of Los Lagos. And here's another picture of this awesome small cat. However, the Guinea is not revered by everyone. It has an unfortunate reputation among some locals, labeled a prolific chicken killer. That's unfortunate. Some even liken it to the chupacabra, mythical vampire like animal that is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock. I thought that was only in like certain parts of Mexico, maybe even Texas and the island of Puerto Rico. I didn't realize it's all the way down here. Maybe it's some type of local folklore. Though it has been proved that roaming dogs are the most prolific predators of livestock in Chile. Whoa. Maybe we did hear about that a little way back with certain feral dog packs actually being the worst predators to livestock over actually even certain native animal populations in Chile or Argentina, since Chile is adjacent to Argentina. The little cat. Oh, wait a second. Direct persecution as a retaliation for killed poultry is a serious threat to the tiny feline survival. The little cat is also an easy target for hunters, according to Napolitano, given that it commonly retreats up trees when threatened. Um, very much like the cougar. Human wildlife conflict is just one consequence of the large scale changes to the Guinea's small home range. Chile is renowned for its vast protected areas. To date, the government has conserved 42% of its marine areas and 22% of its terrestrial areas. But land use change near protected areas is the biggest concern for the Guinea. Okay, so already habitat destruction has impacted much of the Guinea's highly restricted range as deforestation and human populations increased around it. In general, protected areas increase toward the southern part of Chile, where the Guinea and other vulnerable species are also better protected. I think there's also very low human populations in these areas. You even have like wild cattle and horses in these different regions. In the northern range, however, people have dramatically reduced the Chilean littoral ecosystem, a unique and biodiverse Mediterranean ecoregion, converting it into agricultural lands. Meanwhile, logging companies have converted extensive areas of the temperate Valdivian rainforest to commercial exotic plantations, and people have cleared native forests for farming grazelands in Chiloé Island. In 2014 already, a study in biological conservation reported that barely 30% of the Valdivian forest vegetation survived, and the future of Chile's native forests remain unclear due to volatile political climate. Okay, so let's keep going.
Does that mean they're
Hey,
almost out of food?
yeah, seems to be a lot going on with these different forests. I'm not sure. I mean,
My
since they're
problem is,
preying.
but they've been saying this stuff for decades.
True, but some areas it is occurring or it has occurred.
Well, I'm not saying it's not occurring where some of this isn't happening, but the numbers that they always give out,
It can be, yeah, a bit exaggerated, like taking out a football field of rainforest every hour or minute. That
something I think it
seems
was
a
like a
bit
minute.
exaggerated because there comes to a point where there wouldn't be any left
Yeah, there would
after.
be that's my
You
point. They've been saying this stuff forever where they to the point where I think they make a lot of people just say, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
yeah, that is the problem with that. But here I think they're either rescuing it. Yeah, I think they are. I, well, yeah,
They're sending it to the
I
pound.
yeah, hope not. Yeah, rescuing Guinea from or maybe they're radio collaring it. I'm not sure. It doesn't even say. Seems like a healthy individual. So here's the forest. I'm not sure if this is a healthy forest. Completely different from other types of rainforest. Many people also tend to associate with only one or two types of rainforest, and the reality is there's a wide variety. Because even if you're up in different parts of Canada and you have it where you're in the temperate rainforest, actually not just even Canada, like certain parts of Washington State. So let's see. On the one hand, the Guinea has proved relatively tolerant to altered habitats. The cat can be found in secondary forests, exotic pine, and eucalyptus plantations, fragmented landscapes, and on the fringes of rural and agricultural areas. However, De La Maza says the loss and fragmentation of their habitat have introduced novel threats unlike those in the temperate rainforest, including roads, fences, and fires and cattle. One of the main problems, especially in rural areas, are dog attacks. In a 2021 study in ecology and evolution, researchers have already documented the economic and environmental impact of feral and free ranging dogs in Chile, reporting that they can kill an estimated 57,000 sheep annually, as well as prey on a large number of threatened species and wildlife, including the poodoo and the guinea.
Oh, you said sheep, right?
Yeah.
Sound like you said cheap.
Oh, well, now granted, it's only mentioning sheep, and I doubt it's just sheep that they're going after unless sheep are extremely commonly farmed over in Chile. But this is insane. This is much worse than what we're seeing with the wolves over in California. Take these things out. Um, okay. Napolitano, an expert in conservation genetics and on the effects of human driven landscape changes, says these impacts go beyond mortalities. Research has shown that Guinea populations that inhabit fragmented, human dominated landscapes have reduced genetic diversity. Oh, and considering they're claiming that this is it's a vulnerable status, but many times it's not, it's almost like saying least concern. Let's see, suggesting the overall population here is smaller than elsewhere. Yeah, no kidding. Genetic diversity is directly related to population size, adding that it's probably because of the lower carrying capacity of the landscape or the amount of individuals in a certain marooned area genetically. Gonna also likely have higher dispersal rates in the altered landscapes because they need to move more between fragmented habitats looking for food, mating pairs, and shelter. This increases the risks of the cats ending up as roadkill. Oh, yeah, there's another problem too. Or encountering deadly people or dogs. So I guess, referring to like, especially if, well, I guess there's also poaching and then there's the cats. It's like going after poultry or even smaller livestock. Well, just as small, maybe even rabbits. And of course, just people are going to retaliate. More movement also increases the risk of pathogen transmission from domestic cats and dogs to Guineas. And forget about the cats too. They're probably a problem as well. I'm not sure if there would be hybrids, but maybe it's possible. Moreover, the pathogen load in human altered landscapes is substantially higher than in continuous forests, and some wild cats now carry diseases, including the fatal parvovirus. Guinea have also been found to carry feline leukemia and feline immunodeficiency viruses. At the moment, the tiny felines have the genetic capacity to withstand these, but this could change if habitat destruction continues unabated, or if their numbers for any reason would suddenly drop. Um, Interesting. So they have the genetic capacity in certain areas to withstand it. Okay, I thought maybe they were somewhat immune or resistant to it. It is interesting how some species can be not necessarily immune, but resistant to different diseases. She adds that the Guinea is still too common for conservation attention. What? It's barely recognized. Currently, the Guinea is categorized as vulnerable by the IUCN Red List of Endangered Species. Yeah, so vulnerable basically is just a what? So somewhat lower than least concern, but just another term for it. More threatened felines, for example, the endangered Andean cat, L. jacobita, attract relatively more attention and funding. They do? I wonder if that's because they all of a sudden popped up with like the Viscacha in certain documentaries. Which is the Viscacha. There's a few different species, but it's an adorable lagomorph in the different regions of Chile and maybe part of Argentina. It's like a different version of, very distinct version of a rabbit and chinchilla. I'm guessing it's just fragmented area.
Akita Bear just said, "No, me," and I don't know what it's talking about.
Huh? Huh. Weird. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, so let's see. As well, okay, it looks like they're setting up camera traps in different areas. As well, an upcoming project hopes to alleviate the human conflict with Guineas. Conservationists will set up camera traps with a speaker that, when triggered, will emit a noise like dogs barking. Conservationists believe that when the device is placed close to a chicken coop, it will scare away Guinea and other predators. Oh, there's another Guinea. Oh, or maybe they're just planting cameras. Hey, there's one on trail camera. Hey, he looks pretty good too. Yeah, I wonder what specific. I need to see what specific type of force that is. Okay, I think that's it with the Guinea. That's good to see. Let's head over to the next video. Okay, what's going on here? Oh no. Oh, oh, okay. She put it under her. I thought maybe she would
And then
take it
she
for.
whacks her in the head.
I think because she wants the egg, or she's mad at that hen for being a lazy mother.
Yeah, you're not protecting the eggs.
Definitely seems that way.
Yeah, pecked her in the head.
And I couldn't tell for, well, still a big question as to what exactly is going on. Okay, from livescience.com. Great white sharks split into three populations 200,000 years and never mixed 200,000 years ago and never mixed again, except for one hybrid found in the Bermuda Triangle. Interesting. So this was back during the late Pleistocene epoch or the late stage of the Ice Age. And they had already split into these three populations. So I'm guessing that they're genetically distinct. Question is, do they have a lot of genetic variety, or do they also reach those different um, population bottlenecks where there are only a handful of individuals? Scientists found three distinct great white shark populations that congregate in different oceans and do not interbreed. Their separation may have implications for conservation. So here's just a random great white. So, great white sharks, let's see, split into three distinct groups about 100,000 to 200,000 years ago and seldom mingled. This finding suggests that if one of these populations go extinct, it cannot be replaced. In the study, published July 23rd in the journal Current Biology, scientists sequenced the genomes of 89 great white sharks, Carcharodon carcharias, sampled worldwide. The results pointed to three distinct groups that diverged over time and did not interbreed. These groups are found in three locations: the North Atlantic slash Mediterranean, Indo Pacific, and North Pacific Oceans. Okay, it sounds about right. Now we understand that if you wipe out sharks in a particular area, they're not going to be repopulated by sharks from another lineage. A study co-author Leslie Noble, molecular evolutionary ecologist at Nord University in Norway. The so-called global population of white sharks has now shrunk to these three very discrete units, and it's really quite concerning. Yeah, I'm wondering when it comes to um, oh, yeah, the low population of great white sharks, considering there could be as few as 1,500,
But I thought I heard there was.
somewhere between 1,500 to 5,000. Like salmon, female sharks always return to their birth site to drop their pups. This means that the shark's mitochondrial DNA, which they inherit only from their mothers, is a bit like a passport. It shows exactly where they come from. Um, it's funny. I've never heard somebody compare certain DNA or as like passport. I guess because passports will what expire at some point. Earlier studies have looked at white sharks' mitochondrial genome to study their genetic diversity. However, a portion of this maternal DNA is prone to mutation, making them unreliable references to tracing the lineage divergence. In the new study, Noble and his team sifted through hundreds of thousands of genetic markers by analyzing variations of white shark DNA at a single nucleotide, its basic building block. Let's see. The scientists laid out the whole genome information of 89 white sharks sampled worldwide and grouped related genetic sequences using a statistical algorithm. They found that the sharks were segregated into three distinct populations. The team traced the history of these sharks by identifying when the genetic makeup of a shared ancestor began to diverge. These analyses suggested that the shark's lineage is split about 100,000 to 200,000 years ago during the um, penultimate glaciation period, an ice age that saw sea levels fall up to 490 feet or 150 meters lower than current levels. Interesting when that occurred. Oh, okay, there's more. It is still unclear why these populations split in the first place. Noble suspects the drop in sea level and changes in ocean currents and temperature may have created a biogeographical barrier for these sharks. Whoa, okay, well, here's the three different populations. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, right, that hybrid. There he is. You to do right there in the Bermuda Triangle. I think it's right here. There we go. Yes, right there. Of course, it has to be the Bermuda Triangle. Interesting. And then
I
everybody
heard
else is
Smurfs exist in the Bermuda Triangle.
yeah, that's probably true. some Smurf sharks. So we don't find genes moving across those geographical boundaries. Noble said that to us suggests that there must be some sort of a selection, which is making those different lineages adapted to the particular areas they're in. Mysteriously, the only evidence of interbreeding was the presence of a hybrid shark, a mix of the Indo Pacific and the North Pacific lineage in the Bermuda Triangle. It is possible that more instances of interbreeding have occurred, but that the offspring of these hybrids are lost through natural selection. Huh, that is very interesting. Um, Anything else? Let's see. Um, so the existence of three lineages mean conservation efforts should focus on maintaining each unit to the white shark population. If one population starts to stray into another's territory, interbreeding could occur and produce offspring that may not survive. Whoa. The disappearance of these apex predators would also have huge implications for humans. Our fate is ultimately bound with the great whites because we get 20% of our protein from marine ecosystems, which the great whites keep healthy. Um, so if we lose the great whites, we might lose a lot of our protein from these ecosystems. I guess I need to take a bit of a better look into how much of an impact great white sharks have on krill, all these different species of
Well,
fish.
but why would the great whites are they stopping other things from eating things? Because if
Um,
it's saying we get 20% of our protein,
I I also think this is a bit supposed to be a bit of they're just kind of it's person being sarcastic, but no, I mean I really do think we need to get great white populations up. The problem is orcas are really a huge problem
yeah,
because
they
they're
think
eating
it's
them.
people doing it.
Um, so yeah, well, besides that, that was really interesting to see with the three populations. Head over to the next video. Oh, what's going on here? These small pigs. Yep,
Da da
with
da da
their
da da.
piglets. I think that's what a potbelly pig.
I do not know my pigs.
Well, those seem to be, I think, healthy piglets. Huh, huh. That seems like it's pretty good grass. No, I don't think that's grass. I think that's something else. So, heading over to the next article from news.mongabay.com. Penguin poop helps from form clouds over Antarctica, potentially cooling it.
I've
Well,
never heard that about mine.
okay. So, what are these Adelie penguins? Okay, in Antarctica, penguin dung or guano can cover the ground for miles, especially around penguin colonies with thousands of individuals. In fact, large brown guano stains on Antarctica's white ice have even helped scientists discover new penguin colonies from space. A recent study now finds that the massive amounts of guano play a critical role. Ammonia gas released from the droppings helps form clouds over Antarctica, which can cool surface temperatures and potentially reduce the impacts of climate change in the what in the region. Are okay. Adelie penguins, Pygoscelis
Don't they
adelie.
complain about cows?
Yeah, it's interesting, but maybe there's something. I have no idea. Okay, so these are Adelie penguins. Good to see. So Adelie penguins in Antarctica mainly eat fish and krill, so their droppings are rich in nitrogen. In the soil, the nitrogen supports thriving communities of mosses, lichens, and invertebrates, but it also breaks down to form ammonia gas. Ammonia then reacts with other atmospheric gases containing sulfur to create aerosols, tiny particles on which water vapor can condense to form clouds. How bad is the ammonia in these different areas?
When you
Between
get acid rain?
yeah, this is very concerning. Between January 10th and March 20th, 2023, researchers measured the amount of atmospheric ammonia at an observatory located near Marambio Station, a research facility maintained by Argentina in the Antarctic Peninsula. The station is located about 8 kilometers or 5 miles from a 60,000 strong Adelie penguin colony. It's definitely that's a decent sized colony for Adelies. The researchers found that when winds blew from the direction of the colony, the ammonia concentration recorded at the observatory was more than 1,000 times higher than the typical background amount.
So
Ammonia.
what's it over in
Wait, whoa! Hold on a second. The ammonia concentration recorded at the observatory was more than 1,000 times higher. Whoa!
well, you have 60,000 things taking poops, I guess.
Geesh, that is terrifying. Ammonia levels remain more than 100 times higher than the baseline, even after the penguins migrated from the area, suggesting that the dung left behind continued to emit the gas. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, geesh, how long is that occurring for? After ammonia concentration spiked, the researchers observed that the aerosol levels also increased.
Bats are really gonna feel like they've been left behind.
Oh yeah, they're like, am I a joke to you? So that is quite interesting. Though no, I think if you're in some of these caves, it's pretty bad with certain bats. Within a few hours, there was a period of fog and the formation of cloud droplets. Ah! Oh no! Run, leave, get a plane, and just get out of there. Um, Study co-author Matthew Boyer from the University of Helsinki in Finland told Popular Science that in Antarctica, gases like ammonia released from penguin dung are an important source of aerosol particles in the region. You go visit the region, unless you were there. But I've got a feeling. Hmm.
I think
It didn't say it wasn't part of the study,
you
but
need to wear a plutonium suit.
I that's especially true in remote Antarctica, far from human sources of pollution, which can otherwise serve as arsenals. Clouds are insulating and have a cooling effect on surface temperatures in general. So the authors say penguin dung may be helping to reduce the effects of climate change on the penguin's own habitat of Antarctica. I don't want that stuff. How are you promoting this? Antarctica is warming faster than the global average, and its sea ice extent is shrinking. Yeah, we should let um we should promote more penguin dung clouds. Not that I think there aren't a few countries in the world that would also be pro to it. I mean, would be pro to it. Obviously, this I'm very anti to this type of help for the ecosystem. Yes, we need, Antarctica needs its own amount of penguin dung, but there comes to a point where it's just that's I almost want to get rid of the colony. Is how bad this is. Like if you told me that this colony of 60,000 Adelie penguins was rid of, I'd probably be, somewhat pleased. But I got to double check on their population. So if it's high enough, then yeah, go ahead.
Oh god.
Ken Carslaw, an atmospheric scientist at the University of Leeds, UK, who wasn't involved in the study, told the Washington Post that lab experiments had previously shown that gases from dung help form particles in the atmosphere. That's when you're able to smell the scent of dung is because of those particles leaving it. He adds the findings are a valuable confirmation that what has been observed in the lab can explain what's going on in the real atmosphere. These observations are another piece of the puzzle that will help to improve how clouds are represented in climate models.
Hold on, I'm gonna do a camera flip real quick. Something just happened.
By the way, if you're talking about sea ice extent in summer and winter, I mean, it's very different when it comes to, well, it's obviously going to be in the Antarctic. And it really hasn't changed, especially for the winter months. But the summer months, I guess I have to take a look at that. But definitely, there hasn't really been a negative effect when it comes to the penguins over, especially the emperor penguins in Antarctica. They're doing very well. Um, so are we still
Oh, you're going. I just something oh, it's cleared up.
okay? The leopard seals, the whales. Um, I think the whales might have been simply overhunting. So, heading over to the next video. Okay, let's see what happened. So, the way the mama elephant throws the swing after her baby's leg got stuck. Oh, no. Oh.
You're not playing with this anymore. Wait, is this a different
I wonder if the baby elephant was somewhat screaming
well,
and
probably didn't feel good. Hmm.
just slightly pushed it off. That was
I
interesting.
thought she was gonna throw it around the thing.
Yeah, I was expecting that too. It's kind of somewhat relaxed. Okay, so heading back in time from Sci News. Organic material found in Jurassic cephalopod ink sac. So, can you put up a picture of an ammonite? And it doesn't have to be a specific species, just Ammonite. There are different groups of ammonites, like there are of the Ammonoideae lineage of cephalopods, which is also what technically a squid is. In fact, you could look up a squid as well. Even the giant squids, the nautilus, they're all members of the cephalopod lineage of marine animals.
Wait, oh, it's coming up under one, but I'm not sure this is correct. Oh,
Well, it has a shell with
never mind.
tentacles. Now, nautiluses, though, might be cephalopods. They're just much earlier. I believe they are cephalopods. They're just a much earlier group or order of cephalopods. So here is a species of ammonite. This might be one from the um, late Jurassic or possibly the Cretaceous period. Ammonites in general first evolved during the late Devonian around 365 million years ago, around the time of the lobe-finned fish Ichthyostega. And then they became quite abundant, especially by the early Mesozoic era. So in the early Triassic period, and there have been a wide range of different shapes. So many just tend to assume that only nautiluses, which is basically like the very straight and long, skinny ammonite in the corner. That's what a nautilus, in the most part, looks like. But in this instance, is actually a specific species of ammonite that just happened to evolve uh, almost the same type of mutation. And then you have some that are slightly curved, some that have almost like a gibbon like tail.
What's the
Gibbon's a
size
species.
range of these guys?
It can range from ones that are about the size of your pinky nail when it comes to the overall shell size, not including the tentacles or the body itself, to about the size of a large tractor tire when it comes to the shell, not even including the
So like
tentacles.
6 feet.
Um, yeah, yeah, around that size in diameter, or almost 2 meters, maybe even 2 meters in some instances. She might have been a slightly larger one. I believe the largest ammonite species occurred during the Jurassic.
How did he get next to a brick wall?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe it flooded here and there was a time portal. And then here we have the beak, which it looks like there might be evidence of ammonites containing beaks like today's octopus. So let's head back, or possibly, um, there we go. Okay, so an international team of paleontologists has found that two ink sacs from 160-million-year-old giant cephalopod fossils discovered 2 years ago in England contain the pigment melanin, and that is essentially identical to the melanin found in the ink sac of modern day cuttlefish.
So they're able to find. Wait a minute. Hold on. Can I blow this? So they're able to find the ink sac. A- That's just amazing they could even find that.
Yeah, it's pretty well preserved. So the discovery published online, the Journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, suggests that the ink screen escape mechanism of cephalopods, cuttlefish, squid, and octopuses has not evolved since the Jurassic period. Um, Wait a second. And that melanin could be preserved intact in the fossils of a range of organisms. So is this saying that it's first evolved since or it
It hasn't changed since it evolved.
okay, so, well, that's still a wide range of time. It could be anywhere between 145 million years ago to 201 million years ago. But that gives us somewhat of a glimpse into when there was a last change in its evolution. Though the other organic components of the cephalopod we studied are long gone, we've discovered through a variety of research methods that the melanin has remained in a condition that can be studied in exquisite detail. Oh, by the way, this is also from an older article, but I definitely did not hear about this. This is quite interesting. Let's keep going. The scientists investigated fossils using a combination of direct, high resolution chemical techniques to determine whether or not the melanin had been preserved. So, what creates the specific color? They then compared the chemical composition of the fossil melanin to the melanin in the ink of the modern cuttlefish, Sepia officinalis, common to the Mediterranean, North, and Baltic seas, so around Europe. It's close enough that I would argue that the pigmentation in this class of animals has not evolved in 160 million years. Whoa. Okay, so since the late Jurassic, or the last 15 million years of the Jurassic.
So it's saying there's been no evolution in this.
That's pretty astounding. It's like this it's one of those animals that said, "Why change? We're doing pretty well." I mean, it's defending everybody. There doesn't seem to be any creatures that really are that
You
are
mean it's defending off everybody.
yeah, that are preying on, our, cephalopod brothers and, having a huge negative impact. So we're just going to keep it and not change it. Let's see. The whole machinery apparently has been locked in time and passed down through succeeding generations of cuttlefish. It's a very optimized system for this animal, has been optimized for a long time. Generally, animal tissue made up mostly of protein degrades quickly. Over the course of millions of years, all that is likely to be found from an animal is skeletal remains or an impression of the shape of the animal in surrounding rock. Scientists can learn much about an animal by its bones and impressions, but without organic matter, they are left with many unanswered questions. This is also around the time when you have a huge change on land with different types of animals. When you're looking at different species of dinosaurs specifically, actually pterosaurs too. This is around the time when the winged archosaurs of the air could start reaching like lengths of over somewhere between 8 to 11 feet is when this occurred, and or pushing somewhere between uh 2.5 to around 3.2 meters. But also on land, you have some of the earliest ceratopsians or horned dinosaurs that would eventually give rise to triceratops, and as well tyrannosaurs and ankylosaurs evolving. Even larger species of sauropod, long neck dinosaurs like Brontosaurus. But Brontosaurus would evolve until some around 152 million years ago. Generally, animal tissue made up mostly of protein. Oh, I already said that. But melanin is an exception. Though organic, it is highly resistant to degradation over the course of vast amounts of time. Out of all the organic pigments in living soil, melanin has the highest odds of being found in the fossil record. That attribute also makes it a challenge to study. We had to use innovative methods from chemistry, biology, and physics to isolate the melanin from the inorganic material. I think the strength of this paper is that it is not tied to a single method. Any one technique would have brought some insights, but potentially more questions than insights. It was really the more holistic approach that fully characterized it and allows us to actually do a real comparison between what existed during the Jurassic period and what exists now. It's also given us a handle on ways of identifying organic components in fossils that might have been missed using standard methods. So it's really quite interesting that there just simply hasn't been much of a change for that period of time. Okay. So I guess in a second we'll head over to the next video.
I was pretty sure this is an AI.
Well, if this is the antelope that I'm thinking of, but he doesn't seem to be the right color. Um, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that antelope I think is also off in color.
You think
And
it is AI?
yeah, oh yeah, I mean the way the leopards interacting with it. Yeah, it didn't push it off of the um didn't push it off of the rock, and the leopard has too good a footing in this instance as well. But also, like, it made contact with it and wasn't able to just bring it down with it. There are a lot of things that happened here. So yeah, that was fake. So from Oceanographic magazine, rare spade-toothed whale has 9 stomachs and wisdom teeth.
I hope they're not in his stomach.
Yeah, that too. First of its kind dissection of the spade-toothed whale, a species so rare it has never been sighted alive, has provided a wealth of insights and broken new ground in how indigenous groups can work with Western science. Um, okay. The first ever dissection of the world's rarest whale has unlocked a succession of new to science discoveries, including that the spade toothed whale bears tiny vestigial teeth akin to human wisdoms embedded in its gums and carries 9 stomach chambers. That is quite astounding. A whale with 9 stomach chambers. I don't think these are precisely different stomachs, they're just different chambers or different sections, kind of like a ruminant or a cow or a deer. Not only has the week-long examination, except they only have, 5. I always get mixed up with those remnants when it comes to the cows.
Why are you looking at me? How would I know that?
Yeah. Let's see. So not only has the week-long examination of the spade-toothed whale, a species so rare it has never been sighted alive, provided a wealth of new insights into this vastly understudied species. The 5-meter long male spade-toothed whale washed ashore at Otago's Tairi Mouth, a village on New Zealand's South Island in July this year, marking the first time a complete specimen has been recovered in a condition good enough for close examination. Geesh, that's sad. So we have a, 17 and a half foot long whale beach, beach ashore. That's sad. Before now, the only specimens known to science have washed up in later stages of decomposition. Yeah, that's still sad. Like, well, it's fresher. I mean, you just washed ashore a few hours ago. In the first for science, it was decided the dissection would be led by the indigenous community Tarunanga Otako in partnership with Te Papa Atawai Department of Conservation.
Is there
It
gonna
was,
be salsa with that?
yeah, I was thinking of a taco, but this is over in New Zealand and with support from Tuhura Otago Museum and Otago Wakahu Waka University of Otago, alongside Doc's marine science advisor and beaked whale expert Anton van Helden.
It's always funny when it's not your language and you hear some people's names.
Um, yeah, and the last one sounded like he's related to Jean Claude Van Damme. In doing so, the examination has been hailed as a groundbreaking moment, not only for the scientific study of the spade-toothed whale, but also in terms. Oh, geesh, you already said that 3 times. Not only was this Tahora whale the first of its kind to be dissected by science, but it was also the first time our Hapu subtribe worked with. Oh my gosh, this is the 4th time. We don't care. Ugh. Get to the whale. Our one point of interest has been the discovery of tiny vestigial teeth in the upper jaw. These little teeth embedded in the gum tells us something about their evolutionary history. It's remarkable to see this, and it's just another thing that we had no idea about. Okay, here's a picture of the whale. Oh, geesh. Wow. It's almost like the extinct or late Eocene whale, the Basilosaurus, except that was a much larger creature.
Why could they not get a picture of the thing's entire face?
Maybe there's another picture, but yeah, I definitely want to see it. It looks very much like a
Wait, was it
early cetacean. Very
oh,
small fins compared to its body size. Very interesting. Wow, though. Really wonder what it's feeding on, considering supposedly. Well, okay, yeah, supposedly nobody, at least that we know of, has seen this in the wild. Scientists also found that the whale had 9 stomach chambers, which was previously unknown. Okay, so that is quite new.
It's not
Interesting.
that large to have 9 stomach chambers, is it?
Yeah, I kind of wonder how small these stomachs are. In some of those stomachs, we found squid beaks and some lenses from the eyes of squid. Okay, I got concerned for a second. A few parasitic worms. Oh, I thought maybe it was munching on sea worms. And maybe some other part of organisms that we are not quite sure of. We have a parasitologist who will study them to find out what they are. We also found interesting structures associated with both feeding and sound production. Weights and measurements and descriptions were made of various muscles and organs to help us describe the species and make comparisons with related species. These all add to the body of knowledge we are building. Okay, Dr. Joy S. Reidenberg, one of 3 U.S. scientists to have joined the examination, noted that being joined by Terunanga o Otako throughout the entire dissection of the whale made the experience a hugely rewarding one. Um, it was incredibly different to have the involvement of Terunanga Otako because in a normal dissection,
Was Doctor Nacho there?
yeah, and burrito, um, enchilado.
Chili con carne?
I don't think that's a word, but anyway, because in a normal dissection, we just want to know what attaches between A and B. And all the other things we have learned about the importance of the whale to the Morai people, about the. Ugh. Okay, within the findings, Mr. Van Helden has noted that bruising to the head and neck, as well as a broken jaw, have led scientists to believe the whale suffered some sort of head trauma that may have been the cause of death. We don't know, but we suspect there must have been some sort of trauma. But what caused that could be anyone's guess. From here, scientists will analyze the data they have recorded from the whale and publish their findings under the direction of Teranago Otago. It's a week. Okay, that's it. All right, so that's interesting. Somehow it got a broken jaw, like hit a ship or something.
So 10% of the article was actually about the whale.
Yeah, everything else was about people. Okay,
No, it
let's.
was about tacos.
Oh yeah, that too. Let's head over to the next video. Oh no. I got a feeling this isn't unless he raised these lions, which is always possible. Is
He's
it
in
deflating?
no.
Surprised it didn't
Well, that's what I was wondering too. That thing would have to be crazy strong.
I think that's fake. I just would have expected to have some sort of movement on
The
the
person's getting flung around.
also nobody was in the well, I don't think that's the driver's seat over in Africa 'cause I think they drive on the left side. I don't know, or something seemed off about that.
Uh,
Yeah, just exit out. There we go. So from gizmodo.com. These semi-aquatic mice are as fascinating as they are adorable. Let's see what's going on with I can't think of any mice. I think there was like some dramatic like 1980s cartoon, but I can't think of it.
there was what's his name? Speedy Gonzales,
I was thinking of like a yeah, it wasn't him, it was somebody
Tom
else.
and Jerry.
No, well, yeah, I mean them too. So, African rainforests are home to some of the most delightful and surprising species on Earth, as demonstrated by recent research into some rather unusual water loving rodents. A study published today in the Zoological Journal of the Linnean Society describes 2 species of semi aquatic mice living in the Congo Basin and the western parts of equatorial Africa. These mice make a living by hunting insects and tadpoles while wading through shallow water. Interesting. I will say, though, um, mice don't usually go after dairy. I'm not sure where the whole cheese thing came from. I mean, they will munch on it, but it's not preferred. The authors of the new study, led by biologist Tom Gayarla from Siena College in New York, it
Hey, is
did,
that why they switched all the things to peanut butter?
maybe, but um, yeah. So, did a deep dive into an enigmatic genus of moose known as no mouse moose. We're over in Africa. That would be concerning. Um, Known as color mice, which translates to stilt mouse on account of their elongated feet. Two of Gayarla's collaborators on the project, Terry Demos and Julian Kurbis Peter Hans from the Field Museum in Chicago, had been doing field work in Africa for decades, and they told him about a rather odd species of rodents they had been catching near streams and swamps in Central Africa. A rodent known as Colomys goslingi. Based on limited previous research, it per- purportedly had an enormous range with scattered collecting records extending from Liberia all the way to Kenya and south to Angola. Immediately, we suspected that this one species might actually comprise several species because few tropical rodents have such a wide natural range. To get a better handle on colomys, the scientists took a look at the relevant fieldwork, collected physical specimens from museum collections, and took samples of DNA. The comparative analysis resulted in the identification of four distinct species belonging to Colimus, two previously known and two unknown to science. Okay, so I guess on the right, so we have the C. goslingi, Colomys goslingi, and the new Colomys lumumbi on the right.
They're skinny.
Yeah, wow. Quite interesting.
Maybe they just pulled them.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit of a question. One of the known species, C. icentroti, was elevated from a subspecies to a full-blown species of its own, and its habitat was defined as being restricted to northwest Cameroon. The other known species, C. goslingi, was found to have a more restricted range than previously thought. The two newly described species were named C. lamumbi and C. wolgazai. Well, I mean, I guess it's like a mixture of Latin and different sub-Saharan African names in honor of Congolese independence leader Patrice Lumumba and Liberia's Wolgazai Mountains. That's interesting. So, well, I guess it makes sense considering it seems to have a range between West Africa, Central Africa, and northeastern Africa. No, northeastern sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. Let's see. The authors also took this opportunity to study a strange mouse specimen found in Ethiopia back in 1927. This creature was previously assigned to an entirely new genus and species, Nilopogamus plumbeus, and it's probably extinct. Oh, yeah, sure. The one with plumbeus as its species name happens to be gone. The lone specimen exhibited characteristics similar to those seen on the stilt mice, such as water resistant fur and elongated feet, but scientists hadn't been able to figure out where it fit within the evolutionary family tree of rodents. Thanks to the curators at the Field Museum, where the only specimen is housed, we got permission to sample a piece of dried tissue stuck to its skull. I managed to extract DNA from that bit of very old dried tissue and sequence some of its DNA. I had to do all this work in a special laboratory space to ensure no other DNA could contaminate it. When I built the evolutionary tree for all of our Colomys and Nilopogames samples, it was clear that Nilopogames was close related to Colomys. In fact, so closely related that the two groups are now considered sister genre or sister genuses. Colomys are mice, but you'd never mistake them for the kind hiding within your walls. They're larger than house mice with thick brown fur, long whiskers, bright white bellies, and elongated feet. Can only be described as kangaroo like. They also have unusually big brains, which may have something to do with their semi-aquatic lifestyles. Their skull volumes are huge relative to other African rodents. We think this is to support the mechanosensory system associated with their long whiskers, which they use to hunt aquatic animals like insect larvae and tadpoles. As far as I know, no other rodent hunts like colomys. They walk through shallow they walk through shallow water on their long feet with their whiskers draped over the surface of the water, waiting to pounce on anything that moves. They are oddballs. Haven't heard of that type of a description before
You've never heard of an oddball description?
or word. No. Hmm. Stilt mice are primarily found in shallow streams, but they've also been spotted in swampy areas and the shallow edges of deep rivers. They're also nocturnal, spending their nights foraging for food along shallow streams and dense forests, a task made possible by their kangaroo like feet. Beyond this, there's somewhat of a mystery. I'd love to know more about the behavior and ecology of these animals. In addition, he'd like to include color mice in some broader comparative studies to get a better handle on the evolutionary processes that give rise to new species in tropical Africa. Guyarla would also like to find evidence of Nilopogamies, but he fears the animal is truly extinct, which brings up an interesting point having to do with conservation. Um, let's see. I think that's it. Okay. Okay. So it's good to see. Found two new species over semi aquatic mouse and have very distinct hunting lifestyle over in Africa and very distinct morphology too with your kangaroo like feet.
Floppy Rabbit said, "Mice, really?"
Um, yeah, these two seem to be quite interesting. It's unfortunate that those other species are extinct. Okay, so over to the next article from india.mongabay.com. No grass for gar in India's tiger forest. So, when it comes to the gar, so these are essentially the largest bovids on Earth, or members of the family of ungulates or two-toed animals that it consists of bison, muskox. Let's see who else. Actually, or muskox might belong to their own distinct lineage. No, muskox are more closely related to goats and sheep than they are to bison. Yeah, it is quite interesting. So they're somewhat like the largest. It's not hitting me that specific type of name, but you could say goat on Earth. So bovids, so Indian gar, American bison, European bison, Cape buffalo are all related to each other, and oryx or domestic cows. So let's see. So here we have a herd with young Indian gar. I even when it comes to pictures or video, you don't often see Indian gar or calves. So I guess smaller females. The Bandipur Tiger Reserve in Karnataka supports a healthy population of 150 tigers out of around 3,600 nationally, according to the 2022 Tiger Census report. The survival of the tiger is closely tied to the survival of large bodied prey species such as sambar deer and gar, said T. Ramesh, senior scientist at the Salim Ali Center for Ornithology and Natural History. Ornithology is a study of birds. A new study under Ramesh's guidance examines the spatiotemporal habitat suitability for gar or Indian bison, both scarus, in Bandipur, focusing on how seasonal and spatial factors influence their distribution, habitat preference, and conservation needs. Gar is a mixed feeder, which browses as well as grazes, so it's a generalist when it comes to its feeding behavior. Decades ago, Bandipur had good understory grassland cover beneath the trees, which sustained them well. Today, most of these grasslands have been taken over by invasive species, leaving little for guard to feed on. I wonder if this was due to maybe just simply people from other countries coming in, and the problem is they have seeds on maybe their clothes or shoes and they somehow got over there. Or it could also simply be not necessarily individuals, but just simply shipping from other parts of the world. Could be by vehicle, plane, boat, and they arrived in the region. So let's see. Um, I think when it comes to New Zealand being extremely strict when it comes to invasive species, they already have so many issues there. I mean, there's not really any point for how strict they're being. Like something about the airports, and that's just one way of exotic sorts of, let's just say, plant species themselves, and not even when it comes to um I want to like other types of maybe fungi spores, but that's just one in some instances small way of them being transported. Okay, let's keep going. Today, most of these grasslands, okay, so this forced them to move into interface areas or zones shared by both humans and wildlife, leading to conflicts. So, researchers conducted extensive field surveys and habitat analyses from January to December 2023, using both sightings and indirect signs. Along with environmental and anthropogenic data, the study aimed to identify key factors driving gar habitat suitability and to improve management strategies for this vulnerable mega herbivore. The lead author, Subhadra Barak, informs Mongabay, India that suitable habitat for gar has declined significantly in Bandipur, with only about 43% of the total area found to be suitable. Huh. Yeah, that's quite a decrease, especially if the whole area was covered in Indian gar to some extent. The suitable habitats varied across scales, ranging from 11.23% to 43.83%, with the lowest suitability in the dry season model at micro scale and the highest in the wet season model at macro scale. Barrick says this is concerning given that the entire area was once abundant in grass and well suited for ungulates. Also, when referring to the Indian gar, the males can exceed over 7 foot 2 in height, or what, 2.2 meters, and probably reach somewhere around 3,000 pounds or 3,500 pounds. They're pretty large, or a little over, 1,500 kilograms. Let's see. So, while gar are distributed throughout the park, their abundance is concentrated in areas with higher forage quality. Habitat suitability was influenced mainly by shrub cover, waterhole density, tree diversity, habitat heterogeneity, ruggedness, elevation, precipitation, and proximity to human settlements and roads. We found that roadside clearings play a role, maintained for tourism and as fire lines. These areas encourage grass growth, attracting gar and other herbivores such as spotted deer. The study also found that tree diversity and ground cover, herbs, and grasses are vital for gar occurrence, especially during the wet season when grazing opportunities and undergrowth are abundant. Invasive plant species such as lantana significantly affect habitat suitability. It's probably just one genus. There could be a wide variety of different species of lantana in this area that have become invasive. While precipitation enhances it during the wet season by supporting lush ground vegetation. Hmm. So apparently the roads are actually, are they benefiting? Yeah, they're benefiting the animals. Interesting. Barrick says the findings highlight the need for better management of protected areas through restoring grasslands in less suitable areas, managing water holes during the dry season to maintain associated grasslands and swampy areas, and extending roadside grassland management throughout the park so that forage patches are more evenly spread. Oh, is there more? Oh, that's it. Hmm, interesting. So apparently, just simply these invasive plant species are negatively affecting the gar, spotted deer in the area, which this isn't uncommon for different degraded ecosystems where certain exotic plant species have come in and just outcompeted other plant species and therefore starving the herbivores. And it's not good for the carnivores either because now they have less food. So let's head over to the next article or the final article from liwa.org or the Liwa Wildlife Conservancy. Groundbreaking hyena survey brings new insights.
Does that mean they talk to the hyenas?
Seems that way. They're very communicative. So let's take a look. New survey reveals spotted hyena population in Liwa, Kenya. Or Luwa. Spotted hyenas, the very mention, often conjures up images of shadowy figures dismissed as mere scavengers or perhaps for many the cackling villains of animated films. On our landscape, we see spotted hyenas for what they truly are: highly intelligent, complex, and impressive hunters. Okay, so this mission became even clearer as we faced the challenge of gathering reliable data on hyena populations. For years, this was an elusive goal. Estimates often relied on chance sightings, which were useful to some extent but far from accurate. Without solid scientific numbers, effective conservation planning, robust protection strategies, and accurate predictions for their future were incredibly difficult. That gap was finally addressed in July 2025 through a systematic large scale survey. He's like, oh, well, what did you find? Um, let's see. Inside Lua's Conservancy's 2025 hyena call up, milestone in conservation.
I just looked at the picture right when you said that, and it cracked me up.
Yeah, that's what it definitely looks like. I think it's the dry season where he's walking in, or when he's walking. Okay, so between July 13th and 14th of 2025, Lua Wildlife Conservancy and partners conducted a standardized acoustic call-up survey across the LBL and Nigare Nindare forest. A total of 21 playback stations were established, each 1.8 kilometers apart, covering varied habitats. At each station, researchers broadcast a 40-minute sequence of sounds simulating a predation event. This included distressed buffalo calls, hyena feeding cries, and lion roars. Conducted between 6:20 p.m. and 7:30 a.m., when hyenas are most active, the survey attracted individuals from surrounding territories, allowing accurate counts. It must have been pretty irritated when they realized there wasn't any food. Let's see. Findings. Analysis revealed. Lua Wildlife Conservancy, there was a density of 0.43 individual hyenas per square kilometer with an estimated 82 hyenas. In the Barana Wildlife Conservancy, now we don't know how large this conservancy is. So maybe that's not a lot. Barana Wildlife Conservancy has a density of 0.85 individuals per square kilometer with an estimated of 104 hyenas. The Nigare Indare forest, density of 0.31 individuals per square kilometer, with an estimated 18 hyenas.
Well, we know how big it is based on how many there are and how many the density is.
We do?
Yeah. Square kilometers, point one, point
Oh,
four
right.
three, and then it
Okay.
says 82, so you do the math on it, and then you know how large it is.
Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, that wasn't hitting me. In total, the Lua Barana landscape and Ngare Indare forest support an estimated 204 spotted hyenas. Oh, I thought that was the road. I didn't realize that was the sky. I thought we were looking at a road and there was just a bit of light. Okay, so these results provide the first robust scientific baseline for hyena populations in this landscape. Findings will help guide long term monitoring, inform strategies for human carnivore coexistence, and strengthen conservation management across a multi use landscape where wildlife and pastoral livelihoods intersect. The study demonstrates that spotted hyenas are thriving in the region, but also highlights the importance of continued monitoring and conservation efforts to ensure this balance is maintained. I thought for some reason maybe it was a bit of a low number. It seems to be okay. Okay, that's it there. So, let's see. That was good to see. I think that was quite funny with that penguin. I hope that cat just avoids those feral dogs, but there's other issues. And let's see, that was pretty interesting with the cephalopod preserved ink sac, as well as what they had discovered.
Well, the
Um,
idea that it hasn't, evolved.
yeah, it really has remained unchanged. And, what was another thing? Something to do with, I think, oh yeah, the mountain goats and the bighorn sheep. The bighorn sheep barely, they lost almost every time. And what was it? Oh yeah, the ichthyostay got early, somewhat mobility on land. So that was really interesting to see. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow. And for Prehistoric to Present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you love talking about animals, and share the show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.